Now, here it is. The Iron Man feud. Oh, yeah. This is the truth behind the Terrence Howard, Iron Man, and Robert Downey Jr., Don Cheadle mess. And the person that walks away unscathed is people like Jon Favreau. Now, listen. Let's talk about it. Because for some reason it didn't mesh well with me. That the first Iron Man and the way it was shot, the way it was done traditionally the right way. But they did not know this was going to be a blockbuster seller. They didn't. They hoped. They hoped and prayed that this would be it. This would be the one to break the mold. Because they were taking such a risk by putting so much story and what should have been made with more action. And Iron Man had action, but it had a lot of story and depth and emotion that they didn't want to lose the core audience who were kids and hurt replay value. So when Iron Man first came out, it was more of an adult type movie, but they want to bring your kids, to see Iron Man. So with The Dark Knight, they saw The Dark Knight making this money, everybody's seeing all these things happening. So Iron Man would fit right in his radar, but it was tying in like current events, like fighting overseas and, and Pakistan and all this stuff and Afghanistan and putting the wars, the Iraqi war and everything else in perspective. So that was a big risk. And going into this project, Robert Downey Jr., Shane Black, definitely want to work with him again. But they wanted to sell this to as many people as possible, so they really researched Iron Man and what's been going on and actually putting Ghostface and having him involved with the first Iron Man because he was known as Iron Man and took the mantle, Tony Stark's Iron Man. So putting one of Ghostface songs on the plane was just great homage to pay in this film. So Terrence Howard was casted, and at this time, Terrence Howard, he was the biggest star basically in the movie. He had done more prominent things than Robert Downey Jr. at that time. Robert Downey Jr. was trying to build himself up. He's trying to build himself back to the standard that most people would recognize him for. He's trying to get that essence back that he lost. And I could understand that. And many people could understand that when you were at a certain plateau for so long and then all of a sudden, the ground is pulled from up under you. You want to make sure that you do all the things right, And when you look at this situation with Robert Downey Jr. and Terrence Howard, they were friends. They were friends enough that they called each other, talked to each other. They had each other's number. And Robert Downey Jr. needed this role, as Iron Man. And this is what catapulted him back into Hollywood's elite. He was always an outstanding actor. But the substance abuse from the past, it just kind of turned people the wrong way against him. But Terrence Howard, was sticking by his side and everything else. And what they did is him, Robert Downey Jr., and they all signed a 3-picture deal. And they were basing everything off the success of the first film. And when they signed a 3-picture deal, it was going to be a certain amount for the first movie and a second amount for the third movie. Meaning that if all things were successful, you're going to get like $8 million. So, you know, that was basically it. I'm sorry. You know, you have like a pain in your back. Now, the thing is, he was offered $8 million for the sequel. He was supposed to get $8 million for the sequel. He was offered $1 million. And you know, that was not a good, it wasn't a good thing to do. And when you had a guaranteed contract, he really saw how unguaranteed his contract was once he got to the preliminaries of the business side of things. And to keep Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, they gave him a movie, what they call a movie dream. They upped his salary by like $8 million. And it's like, okay, Robert Downey Jr. is getting paid $8 million more for the next movie, but I'm going to lose money, and you only want to offer me $1 million. I'm not getting it. So it's a 3-picture deal, which means the sequel, I'm only getting $1 million. And basically told him, because we think the second movie will be successful with or without you. So he called Robert Downey Jr. And Robert Downey Jr., who was his friend, didn't even return his call for 3 months. So, of course, he refused to take the $1 million. Because that's what they wanted to do anyway, was push him out. They didn't want him to take the $1 million. So he refused the $1 million ridiculous price that he was given. And we all know the history of that. He ended up losing out on possibly $100 million, if not more, because of this. He took a stand, and what he thought was that other people, seeing what was happening, they would take a stand too. So it was reported that Don Cheadle took the $1 million to play in this Marvel movie, Iron Man 2. Now, people who work in the industry, the mediaites that work around them, they're just fleas that report what the media tell them to go out and report. Those guys were reporting stuff about Howard, talking about he wasn't in shape enough to play some of the physical roles or physical things that were going to be required for War Machine. And they were leaking this out to try to get the public to turn their perspective on the Terrence Howard situation, so that the stupid people will run around and go, yeah, because Terrence Howard ain't really in shape, so he can't really get in the suit. I'm like, do you think, like, out of all the stuff we saw Rhodey do in these films, Terrence Howard couldn't do? I mean, really? Terrence Howard can get in shape? Like we've seen all these other actors get in shape for roles? How much action was in what he was doing? It's not like he's getting in the suit and actually flying. Most of this was CGI work. Listen at this situation. Don Cheadle got brought into the situation, and him and Terrence Howard had a little falling out because he accepted the role. Now, he's saying that I didn't know what was going on. And this is what he said. It's not like they brought me in and I kicked him out of a role. He had already turned down the role. But people were making it look like Terrence Howard came in there because, you know, they always do that to the brother. No one ever talks about the other situation. You know, they always brother versus brother. You know, this is what, like, they actually went ahead and actually had plans that controlled, you know, all of this stuff that we're talking about today. These guys had no power. He came in for a role that was available. Now, you've had a lot of these people try to come out, a lot of these pen pushers who call themselves movie buffs, come and try to dispute this fact or make this a fact when it really isn't. But director Jon Favreau, and talk about the Marvel team, was unhappy with his performance. He refused to take a pay cut for the sequel, even though they didn't want him there. He was difficult on the set during the original film. So it was with him that we had to do this. We had to make a change. But here's the thing. Don Cheadle, in the first film, first Iron Man, he almost got the part. See, a lot of people didn't know that. And in the room, they were fighting over who should take the role. Some people said Terrence Howard, some people should say Don Cheadle. And they ended up going with Terrence Howard. And now they feel like Don Cheadle did everything to sabotage the relationship so that he could come back. So when they called Don Cheadle back, because the people was like, we should have went with Don in the first place, and blah, blah, blah. Sorry about that, guys. He was at his daughter's birthday party. He got the call, and they asked him, do you want the movie? And he said, I'm at my daughter's birthday party. And they said, okay, take a couple of hours and then call us back. He said, oh, that's very generous of you. And the thing is, if it wasn't going to be him, it was probably going to be Andre 3000 or somebody from Outkast. That was a joke. But as soon as he got there and accepted the role, and, you know, they went on their own path to finding out what the story needed to be. And then he was just an actor doing a job. But I'm trying to say this in the right way. You know, but Terrence Howard felt like, look, man, we brothers. No matter what, we brothers. And brothers just don't do that to other brothers, is what he trying to say. Like, look, you shouldn't have took that role. Because, as another brother sticking up for each other in this business, we all got to have each other's back at some point. And I know it's money, but there's a bigger thing at work here. There's a bigger picture transpiring, which means that you got to be able to see that, Don. And, Terrence felt like, man, you let me down. As a brother, I feel disrespected that you would take the role. I understand it's good money and all, but we had to this was a point where we had to make a statement. If they're going to do this to me, they would do it to you. They would do it to anybody else that came along. This was the point to make a stand. That's where Terrence Howard's, his upsetness with that situation. But this is all on Favreau and his crew and what they decided to do in the situation. And it was just completely unfair. There was no need for him to take a pay cut when he had a guaranteed contract for 3 years. For 3 films. 3-picture deal. Why does he need to take a pay cut when the movie overexceeded the expectations of what it was supposed to get and got a larger budget for the second? Needless to say, Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, both movies did not surpass the quality of Iron Man 1. So let's get that assessed now. The one with Terrence Howard actually was the best Iron Man there ever was the first one. 2 and 3 are cartoon pieces. Could never be mentioned in the great Marvel movies. Not over Iron Man 1. Matter of fact, 2 is probably one of the worst Marvel movies they made, right along with Thor 2. So, I'm glad Guardians didn't fall in that trap. The sophomore jinx. Because my gosh, did Thor 2 suck. And so did Iron Man 2. But enough of this. I'm out. It's your boy Carcino. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace.